So apparently, I wasn't clear enough. Some people didn't understand exactly what my previous video was saying, and I understand that because I was in tears. And so I'm going to give you the short version of it, but by the title, you already know what this is about. I've been working on a series about this, and I've done interviews with newspapers, and I previously did a vlog series about this, which not many people have seen. I haven't talked about it much, but it's out there. It's on the internet. I used a different name to produce that one. So here's the Reader's Digest version of it, I guess. And just to really get to the straight points of it. I've been homeless for 12 years, and nobody knew. Not really. You see, I've always teetered on the edge of having nothing and then just having just enough to get by. And there were a couple of years in my life where I was doing really well. Didn't last for whatever multitude of reasons. And even just the other week, I met someone who was very uneducated and ignorant and rude about my situation and didn't want to hear anything and blamed me without blaming me. I've heard it a lot. I don't talk about it much. And I haven't talked about it much. So people fall into my situation for a multitude of reasons, and I think in the last few years people have realized that you can fall into my situation without having done anything yourself to cause it. I've left this space here so I can put some footage of everything I've been through, make it dramatic and all, and make it watchable. But I don't know if I have the energy for that or the time, the comfortable time. So right now I'm recording this, and maybe I've already uploaded it. I don't know, but I am in an apartment right now, my apartment, and oh, I just noticed. Look at the sunset. It's casting shadows on me. Who says I can't be artistic? 12 years. I don't know it it went by. So I'm explaining this because it gives me actual motivation and energy to do things, and because I think people need to hear about it. Because when you're struggling with something, you go online to look, and you just want to find someone else that has been through the same things that you've been, so that you know you're not alone. And it's good to talk about it. So everyone should tell their story regardless of whether it's in print or video or whatever. And 12 years ago, it actually started before that. Did it? 12 years ago, a relationship I was in ended. I was supposed to be married, and I had a history of childhood abuse and assault. And as a teenager, I'd also been assaulted multiple times. and then unfortunately later on as an adult. And a lot of it was because I was seeking help, and the people that I asked for help took advantage of that. And my relationship ended in 2013. That person that I thought I was in a partnership with was abusive, physically, psychologically. And because of my history of childhood abuse, when it happened again in that long-term relationship, I couldn't take being in the world. Didn't have the energy to be consciously focused, so I had to take myself out of it. And then the one way that I tried to do that was tried to end my life. There's a short documentary I did about that already. And so some of you may have seen that. Came out a couple years ago, and I ended up in the hospital. I was admitted to psychiatrics. They let me out, and I shouldn't have been. I needed help, and I needed serious help. And then that trauma brought a lot of memories and a lot of other things out from my childhood. And it became really difficult to do much of anything. And I started drinking because drinking made me forget for a short while because I couldn't emotionally, mentally handle what I was going through. And I just needed a break from my thoughts of everything that had happened. When my relationship ended, they were cheating on me, I found out. A lot came out. They were using me. They were using me for a lot of things. And that was painful because I'd had a whole history of being used by people. So when that ended, and everything just sort of came out and was obvious, and like, what am I going through here? At the same time, that year, a few months later, a few weeks later, I don't even really know. It's so confusing, that whole year. But within that year, then my mother, she told me she didn't want me. She doesn't want me. And that was difficult in a lot of ways because she was abusive. But yet you still have those people in your life, because when you're forced to be a part of a group because you don't have a choice, you're born into it, you think that that's okay. And you don't know any different. And when even if you know something different, you just don't know because you're around it. You didn't make that choice to be a part of that circle of people. And so it gets ingrained in you. As children, you get ingrained with the people that are around you. You get ingrained with everything around you. And that was difficult. I still wanted her in my life because I thought that there's these feelings that you connect with, love and care, and they say, well, it's your mother. I said, and your father. Well, here's the thing: if being a mother and a father, more so, they should have been parents. If that meant something, then they wouldn't have abused me in the first place. But just because you're a mother or a father doesn't change who you are as a person necessarily. Just because you're able to bear children doesn't mean you're a parent, and doesn't mean you have the skill set to do it. If you knew everything, then you would never send your children to doctors, or have babysitters watch them, or go to school, or go to extracurriculars, because you know everything. And then, unfortunately, lost a lot of my friends. Some died for different reasons. And then the friends that I asked to help me, they took advantage of me. And that was painful because I couldn't trust anyone anymore because everybody I asked for help took advantage of me. They thought that that was the appropriate time to make sexual advances. And it broke me down further and further and further. And so I spent 3 years doing nothing but drinking and traveling around the world, spending all my life savings that I wasn't supposed to touch. It was supposed to be retirement. Nobody knew. I was very careful that nobody found out. I mean, there was nights I'd go out drinking and I'd spend $400 or $500. Not on me necessarily, but it was anybody there just spending money carelessly, trying to forget. There's footage of me drunk. It's hard to watch, and for about 3 years doing that, lost everything. Didn't take care of my health, nothing, so of course everything suffers, and I was in a really painful place. It was exhaustive. All these memories from childhood coming back, and as they came back when I slowed down on the drinking, it didn't help because I still really couldn't deal with it. I wasn't emotionally ready. Most nights I cried myself to sleep or passed out. And then a few years later, my best friend told me I received a letter. She said that she doesn't believe in suicide, that someone could do that doesn't believe in mental illness. So that friend didn't want to be around me because they just don't believe that it exists. That was a hard letter to read, especially when you see so many people going through it, and that set me back. That set me back. Eventually, I started to, pull myself together, as it were. It was always a constant, something that I had to work on, that I had to work on. It wasn't easy. I was always just right on the edge. Eventually, I saw doctors and so forth. And I got on medication and started doing therapy, but that was expensive because for me, I need a psychologist, not a therapist, and that's not covered. Even therapy isn't covered. You only get certain amount of visits per year. And for what I went through as a child and everything else, it's just not. It's not enough. But I started, and eventually that was working out for me. And I was living in Ontario at the time and had found a job that I loved. But, it was amazing that I found a job that I loved because I spent my entire childhood and teen years working in entertainment. And eventually I retired from that. So to find something else that I loved, which was within the food industry, I love it. And I started training to be a professional in the industry, and eventually I did. I worked in fine dining and became a butler, and took courses and so on and so forth. And so the position that I had in Ontario was great until the company I worked for, they went out of business, and they pulled out of Canada. And then I struggled to find work, and eventually I found work. But from that time up until 2019, I'd worked for 10 companies that had closed their doors. either the entire business closed or they couldn't transfer me. You know, I mean, I was worked at Starbucks, the supervisor, and they couldn't transfer me when their location closed. It just goes on and on the list of businesses. Worked for the Cora Group, who owned or did Milestones. I couldn't go anywhere with them. They're all gone as well. So these are major corporations. And as we've seen in the last few years, it's getting worse and worse. I mean, there's now more people than actual jobs. So eventually, I just started looking for work anywhere I could, traveling from province to province, slowly working. And I wouldn't say I was housed. I didn't have a home. I had apartments, but they weren't my home. And eventually, a friend of mine called and said, "Hey, look, I have a business, and I need someone to work, and I need a professional butler, and you've got the experience, so come work for me." I said, great. And they said, "Look, here's the location." I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm going to need a car for that." Fine. I bought a car on a loan, went to the job. Phenomenal. It wasn't a concern because the job was paying me so much that by the end of that first seasonal contract, I would have paid back my car loan and had money in the bank. And then I was sort of reset to start pulling myself together. But of course, I was still struggling emotionally. It was a battle every day. Well, that job didn't last because they just weren't having the business. So unfortunately, that job closed, they sold, and I was stuck with debt for this brand new vehicle that I had no job to pay. I thought, that's fine, I'll go to Vancouver. There's a lot of work there. It's a big city, but I guess so was Toronto, and there wasn't work there. Went to Vancouver, and I struggled to find work. And I did odd jobs here and there. And it didn't matter that I had great references from head offices and, companies saying that he is the best we've ever seen. He is the best in the district. This guy's phenomenal. Didn't matter for a multitude of reasons. And so that didn't help. And then, well, I didn't have money for anything. I was getting day to day, and I thought, I'll just throw a bed in the car. Because what else am I going to do? I can't afford rent. I don't make enough. So I started sleeping in my car, and for the first little while, I had done a little docu-series about it. It's on YouTube. The fun thing, van life. Everybody sort of jumped on it. It wasn't really van life for me, but I thought, well, make the most of it. Do something. This isn't going to last. It's just momentary. Just momentary. That was in 2016. It's been 8 years since that moment. And I could never make enough money, ever, to pay all my bills and an apartment. And it takes a lot of energy. When you don't get proper rest and sleep, you don't have the energy to do anything. It's so exhaustive. My entire day has to be planned completely, beginning to end. I don't have time for a minute to spare. I have to understand parking laws, driving laws, everything to know that I'm safe enough to sleep somewhere, regulation-wise and neighborhood-wise. And then the stigma, because people don't want to get to know you, to know who you are. It was easy for me in a way, because I was a minimalist. I still am, and I don't have really much stuff. I'm incredibly clean, hygienic, so I never left garbage anywhere. So I was very careful, very quiet, moved on usually within a day or two. And then my car broke down, and I asked for a friend if I could stay with them. And that set me back too, because once again, they took advantage of me. They thought because I was there, then I owed them sexual favors, and what was the breaking point for me? There was small micro attacks, and then eventually there was one where they physically grabbed me and wouldn't let me leave the apartment. Of course I did leave. I pushed back, obviously. And that set me back. Emotionally, you get destroyed, and it's hard to having to keep moving forward when you need a day to rest, but you're not allowed to. You can't have a day to rest. You don't have a day. So it's difficult too because all of that, because being drunk the whole time and struggling mentally, it there's so much that's foggy in my brain. I can't remember everything. A few weeks ago, I actually spoke to a friend, and I asked them. I said, "What?" I remember staying. I said, "Yeah, at their place." I said, "But I don't remember why I stayed at your place." And they said, "I don't know either. You never told me." I had an apartment. So eventually, finally in Vancouver, I got a job that fit, I guess, or that was going to stick around, and I worked for them, amongst other jobs that I've constantly had. And I finally had enough to live, or I should say enough to pay all my bills, still not enough to find an apartment to rent. And that was in 2019. It was a good position. I loved it. But I think when 2020 hit, things just got progressively worse with that company. And I'd already noticed stuff in the beginning that I talked to our general managers about, saying, look, this is something that should be fixed. There's a better way to do this. And they didn't care. I was a supervisor there, and then I was there for 3 years and slowly paying off debt. And eventually I did pay off my debt. And then it got so bad at the job, the abuse that was happening, that I couldn't fix because I tried desperately. I spoke to HR, speaking to head office, and there was nothing. There wasn't going to be a fix. You know, my reports were filled with problems daily that weren't being fixed, and they could easily be fixed easily. And eventually, I just couldn't take it. I couldn't take being yelled at and all these things that for some reason were happening that shouldn't have been. And so I resigned. I gave a month's notice and moved on. And I thought again, hey, this will be easy to find a job. And I've been struggling ever since 2021 to find more work again. And then the problem happened where, okay, fine, let's take a look at what's happening in the world. And a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon of doing online work and delivery work. And so I went into that industry. And I started doing deliveries, and that worked. And then I was doing some online work, doing some translations, and these little sort of quick gigs to make some money. And so I was starting to save money and look ahead. And then unfortunately my car broke down. So I couldn't use the car to do deliveries. And then I was, the whole time I'm still struggling emotionally. I'm having all these medical issues as well. And then, that year in 2021, I did really well financially. By 2022, my taxes were so high, but I'd paid off my debt, but I hadn't saved any money because I'm sort of in that transitional period that I had this huge debt for taxes now. And it just went on, and there was credit card debt, which I had to use sometimes, because as we all do, but it kept getting worse. And then when, I lost my job, and then I resigned from abuse, it just got worse and worse, because we don't have work, you gotta eat. At least I wasn't drinking anymore, which is good. So, unfortunately, I didn't have a way to make money because my car stopped. And then so I just continued that work that I was doing online, the gig work, and that wasn't the best. It just kind of skimmed me by on everything. And then I thought, well, I got to do something about that. And I don't have a place to stay. And you can only park your car in certain places for a certain amount of time. So I went and I got myself a new loan for a new vehicle. Back into more debt. So I did that. Got myself a new vehicle in 2023, 2024, somewhere around that time. And I had done that knowing that I could make money doing delivery and continue what I'm doing online. And then the online work started drying up a little, and then of course AI comes into play, so there's less and less work for people. And it's interesting because I went to start getting training in the forestry industry. And I actually started training in a lot of different industries. I spent a lot of time trying to see what I want to do with my life now that I'm not doing entertainment. And forestry I thought would be great. And I went into it and then discovered the job that I wanted to do no longer exists. I thought, well, how does that no longer exist? And I went into it and I had some meetings with people at some universities, counselors within that industry, and they said, well, the job you want is now done by computers and volunteers. Computers and volunteers is what's destroying this world. And I thought, well, okay, well, maybe I have to train to be one of the programmers, which is great, except good luck still getting a job because they don't need that many programmers. They need one person to program. You don't need that many. You don't need 100 people necessarily, or 1,000 or 1,000,000. You can do with a quarter of that, for example. Especially with AI coming into play, that's helping make things a little easier in some cases, although still not very good in general. Whatever AI does, I can do faster and better. You still have to go in and fix things. It's not perfect, which is fine. But then you need to hire someone to do those corrections. And it's simply gotten to the point where there's more people than work. I still continue to look for work. And, so what do? You started for 4 years in forestry, and then you find out the job that you wanted doesn't exist, and you can't transfer yourself to any other part. It's messed up, so you get more debt. So this was a reoccurring theme there. And so, okay, now I've got a new vehicle in 2020, end of 2023, beginning of 2024. I'm starting to do deliveries again and still applying for work. And there's a lot less businesses than there ever was. More people, of course, same amount of people to a certain extent, but less jobs. So I'm still doing delivery work. Eventually, I've made enough. I'm paying off my debt again, but I've saved enough that I'm making good money to eventually being able to relax. I started to relax, started taking days off, and started working on my health, saving some money. And then, working constantly every single day, 12-hour days. You fast forward to May 2025. May 2025, after pushing really hard and saving a lot of money and getting some assistance, I got myself into an SRO, a single room occupancy building, May 2025. That's right now, guys, this is where we're at. And I was barely able to pay everything. I'm barely able to do it. I've been skimming by. There's not been much delivery work these days because there's more people wanting to do the jobs, and there's less people that can even afford to do it. Yesterday I sat around for 7 hours and I got one order for $7. You need a place to rest and sleep to be able to re-energize to do things. So May 15th, 2025, I got this room and I moved into, which is where I am now. But the thing is, though, now I've got the additional cost of rent. I'm in a way worse off financially because now I've got another bill to pay. Whereas when I was in my car, homeless, I had less. Now I have more, and I have to make more money on a delivery job, which barely pays anything. And there's a huge misconception there. People think that all of a sudden delivery drivers get paid hourly. We do not. There's some legislation changes. People think that, now we get paid out. And it doesn't work that way. And that's something that I'll talk about in an actual blog video at one point. But the reality is we get the average of whatever we've driven. You don't get much. And the more you drive, the more you get back, sure. But if there's no orders, then there's no money regardless. So it is now August 25th. It's been a little over 4 months I've been in this room, and it's been more and more difficult. There have been less and less orders. I've been making less and less money. And I've been struggling to make enough, because that's what it is when you're on a commission job. And it's been a struggle. And there's so many things that I've been wanting to do. And starting to wanting to start therapy with a psychologist again. And now that I have time to rest, a safe place to sleep, I'm not being attacked once a month. Because it happened. I'm going to start dealing with these traumas, physical and emotional, which I haven't been thinking about because I don't have the energy or time. Frankly, you have to be rich to be unwell. And then you got to eat well, and all these things that help your physical and mental. And when you're having mental health problems, and then like me, being mentally ill, which, yeah, it's great that I got diagnosed, but that doesn't change it actually. In some ways, it doesn't help, depending on what you're diagnosed with. And for me, it's progressive. So I'm having a really difficult month right now, and I've been wanting to do this short version of the series idea, talking about just my story for a long time now, which I have been actually recording for years. And I figured I wanted to put a quick version out because some of you have seen the previous video where I struggled and I had cried in my car and I broke down. Because you're constantly exerting energy trying to do something and you don't have time every minute. But making content, it's for me, it's a thing that I like doing. The multitasking, the doing something. It's fun and easy and quick. It's quick emotional satisfaction. And so I do it for that reason, but to, like I said, to tell people. But the thing is, I don't know where I'm going to be going after this. Because right now, I've got $2 in my bank account. It is August 25th, 2025, and I don't have enough to cover my bills. And right now, you think, oh, well, maybe you'll get some more delivery work. Well, no, unfortunately, right now, my delivery account is under review. They do this sometimes where they ask you to verify yourself to make sure it's you using your account. A lot of you are probably familiar with this, and right now it's under review. It hasn't been verified. I don't know why. I took a selfie, sent it to them. They've done this before, but it's every day I have a minimum that I have to make, or I won't make it to my next day. You know, you go online, you can watch videos of people talking where they've been on review for months and they don't know why. They can't get a hold of people because there's no people working. It's all robots. Go online. Look, there's a lot of people struggling waiting. And for me, just like a lot of people, one day away from having nothing. So for me, I'm going to have to put this on my credit card and go further into debt. In a few days, I have to pay rent. And I have to pay my car loan and my storage fees. And I'm right now trying to decide what I'm going to do. Do I pay my rent or do I pay for my car? I've got to choose one and I can't pay both. I'm going to pay for the car, but at least I can go sleep in my car again and I can utilize the vehicle to make money, but I can't utilize my apartment to make money. I can't pay for both. It's not possible. Unless I get verified in the next day, I can potentially make enough money to cover everything. But again, I'm working 12-hour days, and that's fine. I mean, I'm working to live, and I get that. But gosh, at least for the winter, I want to have a place to sleep inside. I don't want to go back to my car again for the winter, but I fear it's what's going to happen. And it's interesting because people say, well, you spent 3 years drinking. I said, yeah, but The reality is that's not what stopped me. It wasn't a problem in the same way it may have been for others. It wasn't an addiction in the same way as it may have been for others. I still held down jobs for those 3 years. I still worked. I mean, mind you, I was doing film gigs, theater gigs, because it was pay. But I mean, it is a job. I treat it like a job. It's not necessarily a hobby. It's work. And you can't treat it as such because that is a job. And that's the thing that most people make a mistake out of. They don't treat it like work, and it is. You know, in entertainment, you can make entertainment and you can make art. Two different things. You don't need to be passionate about it either to make something good. There's technique. You see a lot of things that are not very good and that they still succeed. When you're comparing. But then again, there's also some stuff that's pretty horrible out there. So it's just treat it like work. Get it done. And that's why I was fortunate for years. I got to make a living in the entertainment industry. And I just figured I'd put out this short version because people have always asked me, how did this happen to you? What did you do? I said, I did nothing. Just the world has changed so much that everyone is struggling. And so I figured I want to put out a short, quick version of this because it's been something that I've just wanted to do to have another completed something good. And I'm not sure exactly, again, how I'm going to cut this together. Maybe it'll just be this floating head talking. My documentary, Mind plus Body equals Self-Love. You guys should, I'll try and link it or something somewhere. You'll probably find it online. Talked a little bit about just that segment of my mental illness. And it's just exhausting to fix your life up when you don't have the energy and there's no one there to help you when you have to work. And you frankly have to go really crazy for anyone to pay attention and help you, put you anywhere. I fell through the cracks. I mean, for a lot of things, I didn't even fit the checklist of people that could get any financial assistance or help in any way. And even if you can, to a certain extent, certain things, do you have the time? Is it enough? It's not. For years, I had jobs in between, and they had no idea that every day I left that office and I was going to sleep in my car. And I had to plan for when I finished, how I finished, so I could shower, I could eat, I could go to sleep, wake up early enough to move my car again, so I'm not violating parking laws, get to work, be able to eat. And when I didn't have money to eat, I had to make time to plan to go to the shelter. I had to work around eating, around my work schedule. And some days I ate in the morning, and that was it. Because I would work till 9, 10 at night. And they're not open. And then I couldn't shower either. So I had to get up extra early to go find a place to shower. Well, and eventually I had money. I could go to the gym and it's exhausting. You spend your whole day just doing things. So then, trying to get back into entertainment, I started making content online. Goodness knows how many channels I've lost because of whatever stupid reason. And I've been uploading a lot of content and talking more and more about my personal life. And so, just because you have to, I think you should. People want to know they're not alone, and then I uploaded more and more personal videos, and then as you guys have seen who've been watching here or wherever you're watching this, have seen I've been really opening up. And then I did that last video where I broke down because I just couldn't take it. My car had failed again, and I had no money. I just couldn't take it anymore. and broke down because I couldn't take it. It was exhausting. It's just over and over and over again. And now I'm what, 6, 7 days away from the end of the month, knowing that I'm going to have to go back to my car probably. It's just constant. It's been like this most of my life, and I'm tired. It makes you not want to do anything, and it's just, what's the point? So, I've said it before, and I'm saying it again, you're not alone. I get it. It's exhausting and tiring. So, what am I going to do next? I don't know. I'm going to keep trying to find work in the industry that I'm trying to find work in. And keep uploading stuff just to entertain myself, as it were, and you're probably going to be entertained or not or whatever, but just to do something. But it makes it tough when you don't have a place to do recordings. So I think everyone should talk about their life. Because it helps, it's good. Everyone's got something to say, a story, and we can all learn from those. At this point, I'm just trying to find out what else to say, how to wrap this up, and I'm not really sure how. There's a lot of things still that I want to talk about and show you and explain, because I like education. But it's not the time and place, because I said this is going to be a short version. But there's a lot more that I want to talk about in the longer version, which will be edited and more entertaining than just me sitting here talking. There's a lot about my childhood that I want to talk about. Stuff that I'm just trying to come to terms with, and things that are being revealed to me as well. Things that I'm not ready yet to look at. And when you're a child, a lot of it gets ingrained in you, so it's tough. It affects you as an adult in whatever way it does. So, but that's made me able to go through what I'm going through. I have a high tolerance now for difficulties. It takes a lot for me to throw my hat in. But I don't really know what's next, but I do know I'm probably going to go back to my car. So it's interesting being in this room. I'm still homeless. It's not my home. Yes, I have a residence. And this has been nice for the few months, but every month I always worried, wondering how long is it going to last. Well, now I know, about 4.5 months. Because I can't pay the rent. I can't pay the car, and the car gives me income, but I don't have income because they're doing a verification right now. So, it's not a choice. It's not that easy. It's not people's fault that they can't work necessarily. I mean, I've applied for thousands of jobs. In the last 4 years or so, I've had maybe 6 interviews. 3 of them were real. Out of the 2, for sure were real. One of them actually didn't show up for me. So, yeah, so that's it. But I don't know what I'm going to do next. I'm just going to wait to see if my account gets... I mean, when it does get verified, I'll keep working, doing deliveries. Keep looking for my dream job again. Hopefully someone will hire me soon, but the reality is it's not a choice. And after 12 years of being homeless, it's almost more comfortable being homeless. because at least it's my own control and I'm secure over it and I'm saving money. I was actually getting somewhere. Yeah, but I guess I better get somewhere with this video. I don't know. But so for those of you that saw that previous video, yeah, just all those years of struggling and trying so hard. And then at the same time, as I mentioned in that video, all the stuff that I'd been recording, my hard drives crashed, and that exhausted me. I spent years working on my documentary. Anyways, um, you should never say, okay, I don't know what or when I'll post next, but okay, bye for now. And good luck to whatever you're going through. I get it. You're not alone.